All right, welcome to Saturday morning coffee at DTS or coffee with Paul, whatever you want to call it. I did this once a month or so ago, and I got just tons of comments. I don't know why. I think maybe just because it was kind of a freewheeling session and I didn't have anything specifically planned. However, knowing as I do how things go and talking to crowds, I know that I need to come prepared with a couple things in my back pocket because if you guys don't have enough questions, I think a lot of people come excited to hear everyone else's questions but don't have their own questions. So sometimes it can get boring if I rely on your questions. So it's funny how your mind works. You know, if somebody told me at 8:30 I had to do a talk on this topic, XYZ, I'd probably get all clogged up and have a hard time throwing a presentation together in 30 minutes. Because I had no topic, no presentation, I sat down with my coffee about 35, 40 minutes ago. And I said, well, let me whip up a couple things just in case nobody comes up with enough questions to fill the hour. And I came up with so many topics, I don't even know what to do. Oh, seriously, it's kind of funny. So I did put two slides together that I think were the summary of the most important things that I could maybe get across to you. One mostly kind of technical, one mostly kind of not. But I think two very important topics and two things you'll enjoy talking about. But I will also, of course, take the time to go through all your questions, whatever you do have. One thing I do want to just give you a little heads up on though. Tuesday, Wednesday night, we got together and I had a market letter review day. And I talked a lot about the market that night. So I don't want to bore everybody. I don't want to go through the same thing. If you missed that night, there is a recording that'll get posted over the weekend. You can tune into that. And I don't mind a quick question on something like why this or why that, but I don't want to rehash the whole market situation. It's something that I don't always even do for you guys, the free group members. And naturally, the main analysis goes in the letters I write. But when I get together, we talk about it. I normally go into it. So there's the process for today, and I'd like to end, right at 10 o'clock. It's a Saturday. We're going to cut it off at 10, even if in the middle of a sentence. I'm just going to stop talking, sign off, because it's Saturday. We all want to get about our day, and I don't want to keep you or me here longer than 10 o'clock. So with that, I'm gonna start on my little topic real quick first, and there'll be plenty of time, I think, so don't worry about it. Here's my topic number one. I actually did throw together two slides in the last 5 minutes, but let me go to charts here. You should have charts up, right? This here, if you start at the top left, that's a 60-minute chart, and then the right is a daily chart, below it a weekly chart, and then the bottom left a monthly chart. So let me just click around a couple symbols. I'm going to ask you a question here. Let's look at the 60-minute chart of Intel. And there's a point to this, it's not a test. Bullish or bearish? And by the way, you can't type B as a shortcut. You need at least one other letter in there. Bullish or bearish? 60-minute chart. This chart right here. Bullish or bearish? That ended yesterday. So that's a 60-minute chart. There's 7 bars to a day. You can see the day breaks in there. Bullish or bearish? Would you, if you were day trading tomorrow, would you save this chart to trade tomorrow? Yes or no? Would you save this chart to trade tomorrow? Mostly bulls, some yeses, some nos. All right, let me fly off to another chart. WFC, I'm just clicking on random symbols here. Let's go to the daily chart of WFC. Daily chart. Bullish or bearish? And if you said bullish or bearish, would you put it on your list to trade next week off the daily chart? Yes or no? Would you put it on your list to trade next week? I don't want to bore you, but I'm going to do this on 5 charts. There's a reason for it. I always have some stupid reason, right? Interesting. Kind of different. To be honest with you guys are answering a little differently than I thought you would. AMAT weekly chart. AMAT weekly chart. Bullish or bearish? AMAT weekly chart. Bullish or bearish? Bull, bull. Keep them going. Bull, bull. Bull, bull, bull. And next question, the next question. Would you put it on your list, yes or no, to trade as a long-term trade over the next week or 2 weeks, Obviously on a long-term trade, it doesn't mean you jump in tomorrow necessarily, but is it something you put on your list to monitor to say, yeah, I want to get in this thing long, yes or no? Would you put this on your list? And when I ask that question, I mean to trade in the reasonably near future. I know theoretically you could put every stock in, well, we do in a sense, we put every stock in the market on our list because theoretically someday it could be tradable. That's not the question, of course. The question is this, if you were allowed to pick out a couple dozen stocks, would this be one you'd put on your list to say, hey, yeah, this is what I want? That's the question I'm asking. Let me do one more. I guess that'll make the point. Let's jump down to, what's this stock here? Oxy. Let's go to the Oxy daily chart. Bullish, bearish, the best bullish one. Wow, you like this one. He stepped up to say the best bullish one so far. That's and would you put this on your list to swing trade, long-term trade, over the next week sometime? Yes or no? Interesting. All right, so here's, I think when it comes down to the two topics I'm going to do is I want to talk about crap, CRAP, and I also want to talk about, I think, the last fine points to being successful. Is that a stock? This thing? No, no. You'll know what crap is in just a minute. All right, so let's get back off the charts here. So really, actually, that was astoundingly interesting. I picked 5 random symbols. They were random. I didn't really search for anything. There was no point to searching. I wanted to be random for a particular reason. I was kind of surprised how split some of you guys were between bullish and bearish. I was kind of split. And my goal today is not to go through and try and justify what I think it is. As a matter of fact, when I get done with today, you'll see why that's not even the goal, really. I was also really surprised at how many of you would put that on a list for tomorrow or for next week or whatever. The truth of it is that if you look at a bunch of random charts on whatever time frame you want, here's my first slide I presented for you today, the crap slide. Do you realize that 97% of the time you should not even consider putting that on a list? And by the way, I know people make up statistics all the time. That's not really a made up statistic. I'll tell you where I get to that. Do you realize that 97% of the time you should look at a chart and say, this is crap? Can't recognize a pattern. That's what crap is. Yeah, I know, Jagdish. I know. Those morning plays yesterday were turned out great. I was not in the mood to hang around yesterday. But I'm glad you did well with them. Where do I get 3%? Well, you probably heard me say this before. It's not a made up number. When I scan every night, I scan for the next day. I scan about 1,000 daily charts, and I scan another 500-600 other charts preparing for the day. And I end up at the end of the time with 30 to 50 symbols total. That's about 3%. It's very consistent. It varies a little bit. There's days where the whole market is setting up a certain way, you get more nice trades. There's days where the market is sloppier, and naturally, since the bulk of the stocks kind of follow the market, they're sloppier. But as a range, 3% of the stuff I look at is all that is worth flagging. I mean, even pulling aside to say maybe I'll look at that tomorrow. And I don't care if you're talking about on the intraday charts as a day trade or on the daily, weekly charts for a long-term trade. What do you think about that? Because based on what you guys did, you were running like at 50%. There's nothing I showed you there that I would put on the list. There's nothing I showed you I would put on my list. Like that last question, would you put this on the list? My answer was no for every one of those. No, 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 no. Now, could I take each one of those charts and give you intelligent comments about it? Sure. Could I give you some if-then statements that, well, if it did this and then after that it followed through with this, then maybe, sure, I could give you, but there's nothing on there that would warrant my attention for the next day. In other words, to be able to say 3% really requires a couple of things. Number one, it requires a really good knowledge of charts. And by the way, my 3% may not be your 3%. Please understand that. I'm not here to tell you at all that the exact patterns that I look for are what you should look for. The way I teach things is a structure, and then you kind of interweave that with your personal preferences. There are a million ways to skin the cat. Let me back up one more level even to emphasize that point. And some of you have heard this before, especially if you're in the seminar program, but there's a book out there called New Market Wizards, where this guy who's a behavioral psychologist goes through and interviews 25 successful traders with the goal of trying to find out the technical thing they do in the market that is consistent. In other words, he assumed that the majority of them are sitting there on this chart at this time looking for the certain setup. And there are two things that are to me interesting about the study he did, the book. And one of the most interesting thing is, what did he find they all had in common technically? I don't even want to. It's not about analyzing the charts right now, Jagdish. It's a way more important topic. Yeah, he found 25 traders did 25 different things. What's the one thing they had in common? What's the one thing they had in common though? They all had a particular focus and patience to wait for their thing that they do, right? So there's a lot of stuff that I could call wrong when you look at it. Like if there's a couple charts, if you would have said you're bullish, I would just say that's just wrong to me. It's not. Now, what's right and what's wrong? Well, that's funny too, because there is no right or wrong in a sense. I mean, it's only probabilities, it's only odds, and any pattern can do anything. And if you said a stock was a nice short, or if you thought a stock was a nice long, and I said no, that's a terrible pattern, well, what if it went up 16 cents tomorrow as a day trade, 28 cents, and then fell $2? I mean, where is right and where is wrong? Does that give any light bulbs to anybody a little bit? In other words, you can take a crappy pattern and make some money out of it. It's not the right way to do it. It's not the easy way. But right or wrong is not really a term in trading. It's all about probabilities, and then you couple that with math and probabilities a little bit. So you can take a poor pattern. I don't want to go back to the charts and start a debate about the charts. It's not really the point. The point is that I think there are charts that have high probabilities for anyone, everyone. There's some things that I would just call so low probability, I would never want to see you trade it that way. And then there's a group of stocks where I'd have to look around and say, well, I would never do that, But you may have a particular focus plan, whatever. And the secret is, if you can prove to yourself, if you have proved to yourself that a certain pattern you do is reliable, reproducible, you can find it exactly and trade it as you need to, and you make money consistently, well, you're successful at it. And that's where there's a little bit of variety in there. And the way I teach things is for you to find and explore and really go after those patterns like that. A lot of people who take the seminar program from me gravitate towards some of the exact things I like, which is fine because that's what they see. And some people go off and do little variations of some kind, which is also great. So when I put up here patterns you like ranging from good to making your heart stop. I mean, that's a real thing to me. I mean, sometimes, especially when I'm looking at the hourly charts in the morning, there are some days where it's like I'm not real enthusiastic about the day trading. And by the way, I don't know why, there were a ton of people that signed up to be members to be at this that weren't members before. So I'll throw in a couple occasional comments to catch up. But me personally, I'm the extremes. I like to day trade. I like to long-term trade. I do not believe in swing trading. I think it's a terrible time frame to be on. If you do swing trade, I think you need to be there during the day to get intraday entries on swing trades if you're going to hold for 2 or 3 days. If you're somebody who goes to work and tries to swing trade from the daily charts, you're not making money probably over the long term. If you want to comment on that, feel free. I always like to see the comments, but and you can make money on certain plays, certain times, but you're not making money, you're not making a living, you're not building your account if that's what you're doing. It's a very hard time frame. And it's awkward because that's what a lot of people teach is the thing to do is, if you can't day trade, we'll just go out and swing trade. And the truth of it is you're in a hard, tough situation. I like to long-term trade, off weekly charts, monthly charts, and I like to day trade. Those are the two extremes. Ron, do you find yourself looking more bearish than bullish? You always said you. Yeah, and that's part of the perception we all have to deal with, Ron. I mean, I am a more bearish person. I mean, for two reasons. Number one is a bad reason to be bearish, and that is just a subjective perception that the whole market is just nuts. Everything's nuts. Everything's crazy. You look at these perceptions. I sold a business many years ago, right? Because right now you look at the stock market and people, idiots, talk about PE ratios, or you hit a certain level this, certain level that. And of course, when you blow through those numbers, they just change the numbers. PE can't go over 12, can't go over 15, can't go over 28. You know, forward-looking P's, backward-looking P's, it's all just crap. I sold a business years ago. You know what I sold it for? A 5 PE. 5. Anybody ever sell a business? Small business. I mean, anybody small business, little donut shop or something? Anybody? Yes, no? Quick survey. Anybody sell any kind of business? Real life. I mean, that's what we do. You know, what did you get? What did you guys get? What was your PE you sold it for? Watch him say 40, 50. Make an idiot out of me. What'd you sell for? Everybody's typing. I'm waiting. It should be just a number. 4 to 5. 3 times. Right. Exactly. So when you talk about a 20 PE, do you realize what a 20 PE even means? If you went down to buy the donut shop from the local guy, he wanted to sell it, it means that you would pay him money such that the profit from your donut shop, assuming you're working at, would take you 20 years to pay back what you paid him. Who would do that? It's insane. You know, everything is insane, right? And that's why you have to understand, and this is why I am such a big thing about, if you are looking at fundamentals, you'll never make money. Not unless you look at them like they do in Billions, that show Billions, because that's, you know, most of what they do is illegal. But I mean, if you have, actually they had I watched a couple seasons of it. I liked it. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, so I haven't seen the last season. But they had a really neat thing where, you know, they paid these guys, and I think this is legal. They paid these guys to sit outside this manufacturing plant or whatever, and they were monitoring the trucks that were coming in, like where the chips were coming from. And it's something about, they noticed that one truck stopped coming, and therefore they thought they were cutting them off, and they went and shorted this company, and blah blah blah. I mean, that's the type of fundamentals you need to make money. And if you have millions of dollars, you can hire people. That's great. But if you're going on the internet to learn fundamentals, you're just kidding yourself. You're losing money. It's all crap. The market is just a video game. So what I started this conversation was, I'm bearish, and one of the reasons is because this is all crap. All this stuff is crap. It's ridiculous. But despite that, you know what I've had, for those of you who follow my long-term letter, what is my long-term ranking of the market? My big picture of the market. What has it been for 10 years? Going on 11 years. What has it been? Bullish, maximum bullish, 10 out of 10. So despite what I think, it's a total example of me doing what I say. I play the charts, I play what's out there, and I play bullish. Now, the second reason I like bearish over bullish is a good reason. It's a good technical reason, and that is the fact that things fall faster than they rally. So when you catch shorts, they tend to drop quickly. You tend to make more money because you don't mismanage them. You know, longs are more likely to shake you out on the way up than shorts are to shake you out on the way down, right? Right. So where were we in this whole conversation? We're talking about bearish, bullish. Okay. So the point of this is that on this slide here is that you need to know charts well enough that you can see. I started to say, when I scan, sometimes I'm looking and I'm not impressed with the market. I went through the daily charts. I had nothing excited about, and I'll be going through my hourly chart, and all of a sudden, bam! I just see a chart and I go, wow, and it literally get a tingle in my fingers, literally. And I go, there it is. There's my play for this morning. And people in the room know that, because sometimes I'll come out and say, here's 2 or 3 things I really found I like. And they may have nothing to do with the market or anything else. There's just 2 or 3 setups that I consider my bread and butter setups. About 80% of what I do is bread and butter setups. I put in the trading room, on the tracking sheet for the room, I put, you know, a quick play description, entry and play description. And most people are getting bored because it's 80% of the time it's the same thing. I did a climactic last week. It's the first time I did a climactic in a month. So the other 20%, it's kind of a wild card category for me. In other words, I'll keep open. You know, obviously I know a bunch of strategies, and if I find an exceptional looking strategy, I may do that. But 80% of what I do is that new market wizards thing, is just sitting and waiting for what I like to do. If you felt that you could clearly say those charts I went through, clearly bullet. I mean, the answer for probably every chart I put up there, and again, I don't want to go back. I barely looked at them. The point is not to analyze those today. But your answer should have been crap to every chart I pulled up, and should always be crap, can't recognize a pattern for 97% of the charts you randomly go through. Does that make sense, everyone? And if it's not for you, then you have one of two issues. You don't know charts well enough to be strict or scrutinized enough, or to have your setups that you love. In other words, everything to you just kind of looks, well, it looks okay to me. And number two, you're not fine tuning enough to say, yeah, you could put anything on your screen and maybe it would set up the next day. I always say, any day trade, I could pull any chart in the world and say, well, if you let me draw the chart pattern tomorrow, it could be a trade. But we can't sit there and monitor 1,200 stocks every day, right? We have to pick the ones that have the best setups, the most likely to produce results the next day. If you don't have the right stuff on the screen in front of you as a day trader, as a long-term trader, same thing. As a long-term trader, you guys have seen it when you're here on Monday nights. I have a long-term bullish list, a long-term bearish list, and between those two, I have a hot list. There are the things that I look at every single day and say, okay, is anything happening here that would entice me to enter one of these? I have to tell you, in the long term, I am studying charts more now than I have in the last 2 years, because this is really an interesting area. So let me, I made a couple quick notes to myself. Pull up charts, I did that, 97%, real number, I did that. Oh, can crap work? Can you pull up a chart that I say, I wouldn't trade that in a million years? Could you pull it up and make money? Sure, of course you can, right? Of course you can. Stocks can only go up, down, or sideways, right? That's all they can do. It's all about percentages. It's all about odds. And I can't realistically assign odds to something, because when you say odds of success, you'd have to define what success is. Like I said, if you drop 12 cents, is that a successful short? I guess it depends if you make money on it, but even making money is not the right qualification, because you can make money on 4 out of 5 trades and lose money for the day, right? So success is a little more difficult concept. And by the way, if you like this conversation, you want to talk about what success is, there is a book that you should read. I'll get to that in just a minute when I talk about the movies too. But you can take any chart and have it work for you. If I were to make up numbers, and I don't even know what these numbers mean, but just as a theoretical thing, those 3%, I would say they have a 75% chance of being great, right? I don't know what that means exactly. And I would say some of the really sloppy patterns, they have a 25% chance of working. And again, I'm just making up these numbers, so don't even ask what they mean. But just theoretically, 25% is still not bad. 1 out of 4 times you could have a successful trade, and you can throw it back at me and say, yeah, Paul, I told you how to make money on that. And that brings me kind of to the next thing. I sent out 2 lessons last week back to back. Did you guys get those lessons? Yeah, and then I sent a third one that most of you didn't see. The third one went to the room members. And the third one was about, and it just so happens that third one is really on topic for what we're talking about right now. The third one was on a stock called NUS. And it was right here. Right here. Here's NUS. So it had gapped down this day. It was on the screen, right? And somebody asked me about shorting it, right there. Right there. What do you think about the short right there? Any comments? Some of you saw the chart already. But yeah, my answer was no, for 2 reasons. I mean, number one, this gap this day was not terribly clear to me. In other words, I didn't have a huge bias. Remember, anytime you do something, it's 2 things. It's the chart knowledge to have a bias about where you think it's going, to have the chart knowledge to have the when you think it's going to fulfill that bias, and then you need to devise, understand, and have a great entry system that confirms your bias. That's what trading is all about. Most people don't even understand the last one, right? This was a gap that I was unclear of. Now, since the gap wasn't 100% bearish to me, it was kind of a 55-45 bearish thing, I could have found an intraday pattern that I would have liked to short. But this is not that pattern. I know this pattern. I know this pattern will fake out more than it goes higher. So I said no, and I explained why. So what happened? Well, it dropped, right? Could you have made money on that? Could you have made money on that? Yeah, probably. I mean, it depends what your goal was. Did you expect to get a new low? It depends how you managed it. But if you knew this was the chart ahead of time, sure. If I saw the chart ahead of time, if I could go in the future and pull charts out 20 minutes in the future, trading would be pretty easy. And yeah, but did you make money on it? Well, I don't know. It really depends. So does this person have a right to come back to me and say, "Oh, I told you so"? Or what if this was one of those 1 in 4 trades, which is what I felt it was, that actually cascaded lower? Does that mean that this person was right and I was wrong? Does this mean that I should change my trading style and say, well, okay, from now on, I'll short this pattern anytime I see it? I mean, and that concept aligns with one of the lessons I did send to all of you about management, where you don't rearrange and change everything because of a trade, because it's probabilities. Anything can happen 1 in 4 times. It doesn't mean you rearrange what you do. And that's why it takes the skill to, first of all, to be able to understand charts, to know what you're looking for, and then to say, okay, over a period of time, what really happens on this pattern, and get to know and understand it a little bit. And of course, the shortcut to that is to have somebody teach you, look, here's how you read a chart, here's the language of charts, here's what things do, and give you kind of a universal way to read a chart. Just like learning a foreign language, to be able to understand the language. And once you understand the language, you can understand the sentences people say. And if you understand the language, you'll understand the reasons why that's not a good short. But it doesn't mean it's a 100% thing. There is no chart that's 100%. I've seen the most perfect charts fail. It just happens sometimes. And that's why we have something called a stop loss, where we say, okay, you know what? I was wrong that time. Let me take my lumps and move on to the next trade, because I'll get the next one right. So anyways, oh, no, there's another good point to this little slide here. What if you come unprepared? Or what if you trade Forex or futures? Now, don't get me wrong. I have no problem with people trading Forex or futures. No problem at all. Perfectly fine. But there's a handicap, if you will, to Forex and futures you have to understand. If you don't come prepared and you don't have this 3% sitting in front of you, what are the odds if you just come to the market and you just have that 100% sitting there? In other words, you just come to the market and here's your watch list. You just pull up like you're watching TV and you start going through everything out there. What are the odds you're going to find the right chart pattern? You don't even have to answer. You get my point, right? In other words, you're going to see the first 9 things you're going to see are going to be poor odds. But yet, what are you going to do? You look at 9 symbols or whatever, and you really want to trade. What are you going to do? Yeah, exactly, Terry. Exactly, right? You're going to take something because you're going to say, well, I got to take the best of what I got. See, the better the input you put into the machine, right, the better the output you're going to get. If you only put 2 things into the top, you can't have a good selection at the bottom, right? So you have to, and this is kind of, this is my problem with trading futures or Forex. And again, I'll say it again, I have no problem with you trading futures or Forex. But the problem with the futures, guess what? There's only one thing coming in the top, right? There's one chart, there's one symbol, there's one thing. And you have to have the patience to wait for this one thing to give you the setup that you feel is that high odds thing. Does that make sense, everyone? It's the problem. And I don't have the patience to do that, to be honest with you. I think I'm willing to bet I have more patience than 90% of you listening to me, and I think a lot of you would testify to that, right? Singh, Jagdish, you guys probably testify to the fact that I have more patience than the average person. I don't have the patience to do that. Why do people do it? Well, there is a good reason. Focus is nice. You don't have to prepare for the day. You don't have to do anything but pull up to the table and say, okay, let's take a look what we're doing. But unfortunately, some people do it because they don't have the money to day trade. Right. They don't have the money to day trade, and therefore you can throw $2,000 in an account and go trade a futures contract and go trade some Forex and have at it. And it's not a bad thing if that's your first step in getting trained to get some practice at something. But 95% of the people that open sub $5,000 accounts just go broke and keep refilling them, go broke, they never make it. It's just the reality of it, because the type of person that does that is typically a type of person that's not really learning or getting educated. They're just out taking a swing at things and hoping that they get it. And you know, I guess some make it, but it's about 1 in 20. So anyways, here's the second concept I want to go over, and then I want to leave the time for you guys. This one I'll do a little quicker. To be successful, almost everyone will experience success, depending on how you define it. What matters to most is lasting success over time in varied conditions. You go back, guys, to 1999. You know what? There were a lot of genius day traders in 1999. A lot of genius day traders. Everybody was a genius. And in the year 2001, at the end of 2001, you know what there were? Here's that number again. It's just a coincidence, but 97% of the accounts at Ameritrade / E-Trade were what they call dormant. Dormant. That's a real number. Go look it up. Dormant, meaning they're done. Account had whatever money. It has such little money in it now. It's just sitting there doing nothing, not been refilled, not anything. In other words, those people all got wiped away because they didn't know how to trade or invest. They just stepped into a bull market and said, who can lose in this market? Well, it worked for a while, and unfortunately, an awful lot of people gave it all back and then some. Guy sent me an honest to God trading record of buying Yahoo. Don't quote me on the number, I may not be right, but buying Yahoo at 12, it went to 250 and he sold it at 12. You got to look back and say, hello, what in the world are you doing? He had it better than some people because some people bought it at 250 and sold it at 12, right? So what matters is success over varied conditions. Most really never start the journey. And by the way, this is not well, I'm not going to say it. Most never really even start the journey. Why? Well, a lot of it is this industry that we're in terms of learning how to make money in the market is a really crappy industry. I mean, it is just full of false promises and total, deception and all kinds of stuff. And there's an awful lot of people out there who'll tell you that, oh, just you follow this one thing, you'll make money day after day and time after time, or watch this 90-minute video and you'll make money the rest of your life. And it's awful of a lot of stuff, and it offends me because I'm one of these people in the trenches every day, and I've been teaching a long time and understanding it, and it offends me. I think it's something that is very learnable, and is very learnable to anybody. That's the cool thing. Anybody really can learn this. As I've told you, if I had to bet my life to train somebody to trade in 30 days, I would pick a 15-year-old video game player. That's who I would pick. I really would. So you can't say I don't have the background for this. As a matter of fact, the least you know about the market, the better you are, because most all market perception is bad and wrong and gives you bad habits. It's very learnable, but it does take some dedication. And I am in the process of making a kind of a 4.5 month map, which is what I think it takes you to be successful. I know some people that did it faster than that. I know some people that haven't done it after twice that time. But you have to acknowledge or understand that a lot of it is up to you. I mean, technically all of it's up to you. I've trained a lot of very successful people, an awful lot of them. But if you want to read something funny, go read the DTS homepage. At the very bottom, it says a big warning. How many people have that on a website? I haven't read that in months / years. I hope it doesn't say anything that I'm embarrassed about. One of the things on there that it says is, and I don't know the exact wording right now on the top of my head, but it says, "Well, I guarantee that you will make money after you take my course." and I say, what? First of all, I go, well, of course I will. I mean, if you go to Harvard and you graduate from Harvard after 4 years, they guarantee you're going to make $300,000. Oh no, wait a minute, they don't. I say I wouldn't guarantee that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You may be a complete moron. I don't know who you are, but I will guarantee you I'll teach you everything you need to know. But what people do with that information is up to them. There's a lot of people that just never handle it right, or they come so close and stop. But it's difficult because people sometimes get the impression that this is just, oh, so easy. It's not so easy. I don't want to scare you. It's not so hard, but it's not so easy. Many never get on the right path. Some get on the right path but stop short. And you know what? They stop because of success and they stop because of failure. And Paul, that doesn't make any sense to me. What are you talking about? Well, you go online and you pick up a free video, or you spend $99 for a video and you learn some stuff, and you go out and you go, oh, hey, this works, you know, and you make money a couple, 3 days. And the next week you lose a little bit, but well, I still see what I'm doing. And the next week you struggle and you break even, and you break even for a few months, and you get frustrated, you start losing. And you say, well, because you had that initial success, you felt you understood it. You don't need to learn anymore. See, that's the second thing about the book Market Wizards. And it's why that I tell people when they start my first class, what I tell them is, I hope you lose money when you're done with this class. And people, what? Well, the reason is simple, because if you start making money, you get complacent and you think you know it all, and you don't know it all. And the second thing that everybody in that book, Market Wizards, the guy that interviewed the 25 successful traders, the thing they all had in common, the second thing they all had in common, was they all got their ass kicked when they started trading. All of them. Every single person lost more than half their account at a minimum. Some lost more than that. And made them stop and say, wait a minute, I'm doing this wrong. Stop being so careless. Stop being so reckless. Stop being so impatient. Learn what you're doing. And that's what I mean, that even if you get taught everything that you're supposed to know, you can still be your own worst enemy. People come in, I want to make money in the market. Everybody does that, you know. Some people don't do anything. They just come in and say, well, I'll just give this a shot, and, you know, buy low, sell high, blah, blah, blah. Can't lose money taking a profit, blah, blah, blah. Then there's the next group of people, which includes 97% of the people out there, is, I'm smart, I'll study, and I'll figure this out myself. What do you think of this person? And my answer is probably not what you think. What do you think of this person? Well, to be honest with you, I have nothing bad to say about the person. Yeah. You know why? For one thing, this person was me. I bet you it was all of you too, right? This was me. I did this. First 6 months, I was a very smart guy. I'd figure this out. And I bet you it's most all of you too, right? I don't think matter of fact, I don't know of anybody that said, oh, stock trading, that sounds interesting. Sign me up for that class. Very few. As a matter of fact, I'd almost have to say that person's kind of dumb, right? I like to do things myself. I like to figure things out, and you know, I actually like doing, you know, home projects. I'm a big construction type guy. I like doing that. It's very fulfilling to me and very relaxing. Awful lot of stuff. I learned I don't pay a professional to do some of the stuff. I do a better job than they do. But it's simple stuff. It's simple stuff. It's not complicated stuff. So I tried this myself too. I tried for 6 months, and then I'm not going to give you the whole story, but you know, the day came when I looked at myself and said, you know what, Paul, you don't have a clue what you're doing. I had to admit it. So I went to get help. The next step people do is they go to get help, but they bargain hunt, right? You know what, give me the $99 video, right? Isn't that all I need? Give me this, give me that. That's probably the worst step to stop at, because here's where you get the false hope and you think you know what you're doing. Some pay to learn. Well, where do you go? That's one problem. Unfortunately, there's a variety of people out there. There are people that range from, there are some absolute scam frauds out there. I'm sorry to tell you there are. I will never discuss them publicly. I'm not here to do that. If you ever want to call me and discuss, I'll discuss. And if you don't like me, I'll give you a couple of people I think are pretty good, that can teach and can make money and, you know, do. But there's an awful lot of people that, yeah, they can kind of teach the stuff, but they stop a level short. Like, they're not in the trenches every day. They're not really out there doing it. They say things that are in the textbook, but they stop just short of being right, just short of being able to make money. You don't really quite get it. I don't think most of you can understand that, but me hearing other people talk sometimes, and having taught teachers in a sense, you can just tell when somebody isn't really doing it. They just stop short. They don't get that last little finesse step. And then even if you have, you know, those top people are the ones that have the right desire, the right understanding. They go to the right place. And I'm not here selling me. Please don't understand. I may not even be right for you. You may not like me or like my attitude or the way I trade or teach or whatever. But you have to find the synergy with somebody you really relate with. And then you have to have the right attitude and patience and understand that you never stop being a student, myself included. Does all that make sense? I had my eyes kind of closed while I've been talking. I'll come back and read your comments here. One always needs a mentor or coach. Yep. I was the next. Did you get bad education? I was 25K account didn't I made. Oh, thanks, Jagdish. Yeah, an awful lot of people, are on their second or third try because they went through and tried stuff. The testament to this second and third level, or the top two levels here, are, you know, the most common person I have that comes to me is somebody who's taken an education somewhere already. This is the most common thing that I hear back sometimes is, I don't know if I could pay to learn this again. That's what they didn't, they found me later, they didn't know, they like me, but they paid to learn this already. And I got to tell you, a lot of stuff people learn is just doesn't do it, or sometimes it's even just wrong. And there's some good people out there, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not saying that, but it is the most common thing that somebody's gone through and trying to learn this and they didn't have the right place, or it could be you. I mean, maybe you heard the right stuff and you just didn't understand it, didn't take the time to really learn it. I tell people when I talk about it, I'm setting up just a kind of a schedule, if you will, for 4.5 months. It includes taking my classes 3 times. 3 times. You can't learn the material sitting through it one time. And again, I don't want to scare you off. I don't want to, if you're trying to learn this, I don't want to have you, oh my gosh, 4 months before I make money. Well, it may not take you that long. I don't know. But I'm just saying that for me to get 90% of what's in my head into your head, you have to hear it 3 times. It's just what it is. But along the way, it's a great process and it works really well. But I just want to give you this, this kind of a heads up on this. That's all. I will, at this point, I'm going to hop over to your questions. Do you think, when I found the power, thanks, Reg. Yeah, it could be, Chris. I mean, I think you never stop learning, Chris. The point is, what level do you have to hit where you know enough to make money? And if you go about it the right way, see, here's my thing, is that when you get to a certain level on charts, let's say you get to an 80% knowledge in charts, there's more to it after the charts. See, there's a whole thing I call math and probabilities. It's what I call that moment in time thing. It's what I call that moment in time thing. It's hard to explain, but in other words, you could know charts really well, but you have to understand that no matter how well you know charts, you're only increasing probabilities. And you have to know what to do when you're right, when you're wrong, and to recognize the difference between being right and being wrong, what a good trade is, what a bad trade is. And so many people, they get to a level of charts, in other words, where I'm saying where they can make money, right? But they don't, but it's not because of their chart reading problems. So what do those people do? A lot of times they'll say, well, I got to learn charts better. And they'll go and spend all their time trying to get 80% up to 85% or 90% or whatever, and they don't do any better because it's not the chart reading now that's your problem. It's everything else. If you're learning technical analysis and you don't learn your entries separate from your patterns, you're not going to make money. In other words, every pattern is kind of taught with a generic entry, right? I'll even back up to a head and shoulders pattern. Head and shoulders pattern has an entry. You know what? You'll never make money doing that. Never. I don't like to use the word never because it implies zero chance, but I'm gonna stick with it. You'll never make money doing that. Can you look back and show me chart patterns where it works? Yes, it works. So what? It kind of works. But you'll never make money doing that. Well, for one thing, because the entry stinks. You'll never make money taking that entry. I mean, over the long term, any single trade, of course you can. But I mean, if you do this consistently, it just doesn't work. You have to understand so much more than that. August 7th, for you seminar people, I just set this date, I'm putting it on the calendar. August 7th, this is for the seminar people, I'm going to do a trading plan presentation, which will be recorded and then be put on the trading program resources page where you can access it whenever you want to. This is just for seminar people. I just put that in the calendar, and then when we do our classes, we don't have to spend any time doing that because I want to devote more time to the other things. My classes, I'm having a hard time finishing them by 6 o'clock is the problem. because I keep kind of adding a little bit, building a little bit, and I want to take some of the soft stuff out and put it onto videos, like I've done with some other topics. So mark your dates for that. It'll go on the calendar. I'll give you notice of it coming up. And I'm ready to take your questions. I do want to call your attention to, if you're again, I know a lot of you are new this today for some reason. Check out the free stuff page. There's a wealth of information there. Why do I do that? Well, I do that because I know a lot of you are trying to learn this on your own, and I'm not going to stop you from doing that. So I'm trying to give you all the information I can. And also, it's a supplement to even people that take the course from me. And also, if you hadn't seen it, next to that, there's the other stuff page, which again, I got so many compliments on this, or so many comments I should say back, that this little thing helped you a lot. This talks about my 2 favorite movies for trading. And I'm also going to add to this my favorite book. Even though I've written 2 books, my favorite book for you to read is a book, and I'm going to put this on that same page I just gave you. It's not there. As a matter of fact, I think it says coming soon. Best book to read as a trader. You know what the winner is? Anybody? What's the best book to read as a trader? As I'm looking at the site right now, it says best book to read as a trader, coming soon. The winner is question mark, question mark. Anybody know it? Yep, you got it, Jim. Trading Your Way to Financial Freedom. It is a book about numbers, math, probabilities. To me, it's the most important thing you can learn in a book. You're never going to learn technical analysis to the level that'll make you money in a book. And that's why the books that I wrote, I don't even necessarily recommend. You can read them if you want, but they're not going to turn the corner for you. A book like this it's by Van Tharp is his name, is the author, Van Tharp. That's one way to do it, Red, sure. Yeah, there's a various ways you can organize your trading plan. It depends a lot on your personal preferences. Yeah, the other books then, Chris, are the psychological books, and there's a lot of them out there now, but I mean the classics are from Douglas and Trading in the Zone, and yeah, exactly. Those are excellent books too. They give you, anytime you read a book and you walk away with 1 or 2 lines that stick out in your head, it was worth it. And that's what those books do. They can give you just that. And that's what I try and do in some of these presentations. Everything I went over today is in that category of saying, hey, I don't want to stick my hand up, but Paul's talking about me right now, and yeah, he's right. That's a problem. If I can relate to you that way, that's great. And of course, this weekend is the start of the next seminar cycle. And all I can say is I think someday when I'm done teaching, I think some of you may look back and say, gee, I wish Paul was around still. Because this is, I think, a rare opportunity for you to learn from me. The total program costs $3,700. There are people out there that teach 1-day classes for $6,000. There are programs out there that cost $25,000. What does my program fall short of for only $3,700? Well, absolutely nothing. I used to be with big companies or a big company, and the thing of the big company is always how do we sell more stuff? My thing is how can I teach you how to trade properly? And what I teach is everything you need to learn. That starts this Saturday. Actually, if you look down in the folder there's a description of the seminar program. Isn't there? Yeah. DTS seminar program details here. I'll put it out there for you. You can read about that if you want to. You can call and talk to me about it. But there are people that I have talked out of taking this because I don't think they had the right attitude going in, and others are kind of like, I want to quit my job. I don't really have any money, and can I start making money next week? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't be taking this right now. And there are people that I think are putting it off that should be taking it. The other extreme, people that are ready, they have the money, and they just keep trying to avoid. But what's funny is a guy sent me his records. This guy is losing. He's losing $6,000 to $8,000 every month. I mean, every 2 weeks he loses more than this entire program costs. And by the way, there's nothing else you can buy after that. This is my little commercial for me. There's nothing else you can buy. There's nothing. That's it. If you said, Paul, all the coaching and mentoring you want is in that. Just we get together. Period. If you said, Paul, give me something more deluxe, there is nothing. That's all there is. That's all you can spend. And by the way, also on the site a few months back, I did add coaching as a thing you can do. It's not cheap, and it's not available to people who take the seminar program because you get all the coaching you want as part of it. But if you want to, for some reason, get together and you feel you're successful, work through a couple issues for a couple hours, there's that on the site too, on the seminar page. So, and I'm open for questions at this point. Reg, I see your question there, or your comment. How do you think your trading has evolved over the past? How do you think your trading has evolved over the past? Gary, one advantage I have is teaching people. Um, you really perfect things when you have to regurgitate it to people, when you have to put yourself on display for people, right? It's an amazing way to help learn. Matter of fact, for any of you involved in martial arts at all, okay, to get your black belt, you learn how to get a black belt, right? To get a second degree, third degree, fourth degree, what do you do most of the time? 10 doesn't count, Jackson. You got to be over 12. Most of your training in second, third, fourth degree is you're teaching people. You're teaching. It's a big part of you don't do any teaching up to it, but it's because you really start to learn anything better when you're forced to organize your thoughts so perfectly that you communicate it to another human being. So for me, that's been something that's been helped me a lot. And a lot of it, Gary, he's asking how I've evolved. A lot of it to me was stuff that I just set up to do, stuff that I teach now in terms of tracking. When I started, Gary, there was nothing out there to learn. There was nothing. I mean, you couldn't, any of this stuff. A lot of the stuff that I teach is stuff I just started doing about tracking your results and printing charts and statistical analysis of what you do. And naturally, it's evolved, or a lot of people do this, of course. But I mean, I'm just saying, as I evolved, I had to do all that myself. I had discovered, and I think the constant follow-up of what you do is what's always important. PayX took short after pattern got stopped out and the trade worked after having emotionally. It hurts and seems not whatever. All right, let me look at PayX. Where are you on PayX? Did you have a question, Naresh? Did you on daily chart, intraday chart? Where did you get in? What do you? And I'm not sure what your questions. You get stopped out unless it's just there on the daily. When did you short? Emotionally, it hurts, and it seems whatever. Yeah. Well, keep something in mind too, Naresh. I have to tell you, just a red flag, Naresh, is when somebody says I went short and it didn't work, so I went long. It's extremely rare that I would do that, Naresh, because this whole pattern should give you a bias, and your bias doesn't change. Sometimes I've had some people ask me this once in a while, and it cracks me up just what a poor comment it is. It's like somebody asks if I like something short, and I say no, I don't like short. I explain why. They go, oh, okay, so you like it long. I'm like, no, it's in the 97% of crap where I don't know where it's going. But to me, it's a little scary to say it didn't work short, so I took it long. Do you have a date? Well, I assume you shorted. You probably shorted this big bar in here, right? Well, you're not telling me exactly where you got in, but here's the thing. Just recently. Okay. Well, here's the thing. I mean, number one, shorting the stock anywhere up till yesterday to me is not even a concept. If you had gun to your head and you had to say you had to short this, I mean, there are clues in here that you would be shorting, but you see, you got to be smart enough to get short in here and make money on this drop, right? And once you have this drop, see, this can set up a pattern, but you have to let it set up. It's very difficult to tell anyone here where it may be. Right in here, it gets very interesting today, but again, there's no entry for me to do it tomorrow. You can't just jump in and say, gee, and that's why you look at a lot of charts. That's why you look at a lot of things, because see how you would never short this right now. You need to have several things on your screen so you can say, okay, there's a pattern, now it's setting up the way I want it to, and now give me an entry. You need to have all that come together for you. It takes 3 times to learn. Do you have to? Oh, no, FS, no. No, FS, read that little thing I gave you. That would be criminal of me to do that. No, you pay that one time, that's all you ever pay. You get unlimited retakes forever, for as long as DTS is around. You get to, and there's all kinds of other stuff. No, of course not. How could I possibly tell you you're not going to learn it all the first time and then say, well, that's all you get? Even though that's what most people do, but it's crazy. Are you able to implement what you teach in actual training every day? Yes, Jerry, absolutely. That's what the practical application review day is. What I do with the seminar people is 2 times every 6 weeks, sometimes 3 times every 6 weeks. We get together for what I call the practical application review day. You learn stuff in class and you say great, and then you go out in the market as a student and you have a hard time finding what was taught in class. What I do in this practical application review day is I take trades that I did that week and I show them to you and I say, look, here's what I teach in the seminar. Here's what I did, and look at this. It's exactly the same thing. Look at this chart from class. Remember I said blah, 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 blah? Well, here it is, blah, blah. And people go, oh yeah, wow, that's exactly what you taught in class. Everything I do is exactly out of the manual. Exactly. Because the manual is what I do. See, that's just it. I'm not teaching, like some big company, you get somebody teaching what was taught to them, that somebody wrote 30 years ago that you don't even agree with. That's what happened, back at Pristine a lot. This is me. This is what I do, and that's what you're learning, and that's what's great. And again, it has rules and stuff where you can apply it a lot of different ways. Okay, I think the key I'm saying and being awareness of what the price is higher in time frames and being ready to reflect in the moment. Yes, Reg. One of the most important things about understanding charts is the concept of aligning time frames. That's probably the most key, fundamental, basic thing. Nothing will work in a vacuum. How much longer are you teaching? Good question, Bridget. What I have said from the day I opened DTS is that I was guaranteeing people I'd be around for 4 years, and that I would update that number after 2 years. We're coming up to that 2-year number this fall, where I will update you if I will be around 2 years or more than 2 years, okay, or what the situation is. So from this point forward, you're absolutely guaranteed, unless I get hit by a bus tomorrow, that I'll be around. For unlimited retakes forever. Understand that lifetime membership. You ever sign up for a lifetime membership? Lifetime means the lifetime of the company, not of you. I remember when I used to live in Illinois, I signed up for a lifetime membership at a gym. They went out of business next week. They were just collecting lifetime memberships so they could go out of business. So it's the life of the company, not you. And that's why I'm honest with you what my plans are. I'm not going to do this forever, but you know what? I am going to trade forever. I can't imagine not getting up in the morning and wanting to trade or not having money long term. It's just a question of how much time I want to devote to doing this, but I really enjoy it. You can tell. I'm sure you can tell. I love teaching this and doing it. So there's a good chance that the 4 years will be extended some, but maybe after 4 years it'll take a little different shape or something. We'll see. Trading has changed a lot. We had to give the order. Yeah, exactly, Reg. Yeah, I talk about that in the Friday class. How does frequency to trade a system affect the learning curve? Like if you can trade 3 times a week versus trading less frequently, like 3 times a week, do you generally see people become successful after 20 days, 100 trades, etc.? How does frequency trade? First of all, the word system bothered me because I thought that was the question was going to be about. So just system doesn't matter. You're saying just to trade a pattern, whatever. Okay, affect the learning curve. Obviously, David, I don't think I've ever been asked that. Practice makes perfect to some extent. The question is basically, if you can't be as frequent, does it take you longer to learn? Practice helps, obviously, but I don't think it's a one-to-one relationship. In other words, if you can only practice a fourth as much as somebody else, I don't think it takes you 4 times longer because, taking the trades is the end result of a lot of work. The study, the prep, the understanding, and you can do a lot of that. Even if you don't hit the button. I mean, a lot of it is the understanding what's going on. A lot of it you can do what we call paper trading. In other words, if you don't have time to sit there and take X trades, you can take X paper trades or say, here's what I think is going to happen tomorrow with these symbols and continue to perfect what you do, even if you don't have the time right now to do that. I think if you are able to be there 3 mornings a week, I assume you're talking about day trading because obviously you have all the time you need to long-term trade. If you can be there 2 mornings a week, 3 mornings a week, 1 full day a week, I think it's worth it for you to go there and do it. I mean, something I'll probably send around someday is a email saying, look, you're the average person. You're working a job. You're trying to learn the market to supplement your income. You need to make more money. What would you have to do to make $100? Well, you have to go out and work, what, 8 hours at your local 7-Eleven liquor store as a cashier or, whatever as a part-time job to pick up $100. What if you traded 1 morning for 2 hours? What could you make? Interesting question. A little bit easier. Plus, it continues to develop you as a trader. All right, other questions? I'm letting us go a couple minutes over because, well, you guys aren't asking me a question, which is fine. Paul, hope the daily market. Hey, T. Yeah, don't freak out about it. Like I said, I wanted to make I don't like over promising. So when I started DTS, I said 4 years, and I love what I'm doing. I love working with you guys, and it's a very good chance that it will continue in full for a couple more years, and even if not, a very good chance that parts of it will continue. Maybe I don't know. I haven't even thought about it, so I don't even want to talk about it. Maybe it'll continue as is even longer, but maybe I'll just teach a little less often or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Redford, I agree with the comment. I tell you why, because many phenomena that occur will occur similarly on every time frame. And over the lower time being, you experience the patterns, the more experience you will get. Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. I guess that's another facet that I stopped short of saying. I said that I don't think it takes you X times longer to learn if you can only trade X times less. And I use the thing that you can kind of paper trade, but also you're right. I mean, when you're learning, you learn charts on any time frame. It really doesn't matter. I mean, the concepts that apply to a 5-minute chart apply to an hourly chart, apply to a daily chart, apply to a weekly chart. The only little thing that comes into play is if you're talking about gaps. Gaps are something that apply on daily charts, and you don't get that intraday thing. But I mean, other than that, everything's the same on all the time frames. So yeah, I mean, you can practice and learn on other time frames as well too. Absolutely. And you're right. Like as a day trader, I mean, if you want to learn on a 5-minute chart, you're going to have many instances of setups to look at and to refine your skills, so to speak. So questions, other questions, quickly. We're going to wind this up in the next 3 minutes here. Friday is the next time the next free event for all of you will be Friday, where it's the half-day class that everyone's invited to. Then of course Saturday starts the first of the 3 Saturdays of the seminar program where you have to pay to get into that. And then next Tuesday, I think I'm doing another free event. No, is that right? Am I? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tuesday. Excuse me. Start over. Tuesday, in 3 days, I'm doing an event. You'll get the title and invite to tomorrow with the weekly market summary. Let me look at the calendar here. Right. Yeah, the 23rd. 23rd is a lecture I'll be doing, and then Friday the 26th is the half-day class. So for you free members, you have 2 things this week you can look forward to, and then class starts on Saturday. And then remember I gave you that date where I'm going to do for the seminar people, the August 7th is going to be a trading plan day that'll be recorded and put on your website. Okay. Can you make a general statement about how much? I'm not sure I fully get your question. The question is, can you make a statement how much you know versus your actual performance? I think to have good performance, you have to have actual knowledge that's at a certain level. I don't know what that number is, 80%, 90%. There's a certain level of knowledge you have to hit as a requirement to enter the door to have good performance. And then even if you have 80% knowledge, you may still screw up everything else that's involved. You can understand charts, like I said. There's a lot of videos on the website in the free page from prior events that address some of these topics, but there's one out there called From Chart Reader to Trader Investor. It talks about the fact that there's an awful lot of people that become good chart readers. It's not hard. It's not hard at all, actually. But they don't make money because they don't get the rest of it. They don't get the last part of it. So you need to have, I think, if you only have 50% chart reading ability, whatever that means, I don't think you're ever going to make it. But even if you get to 80%, yeah, you need to get to some level to understand charts well enough to give you setups, to give you the opportunity to make money, and then you have to know how to make money from them. So it's kind of a 2-part process. Was yesterday's market reaction a surprise to you? Was yesterday's not well? Let me put it this way. Who asked the question? David H. Thursday and Friday, I entered 2 long-term short positions. Does that answer your question? And one of them was entered yesterday on that drop. When scanning charts, do you click on every single symbol and review it, or is there an automated program that breaks charts out by pattern? Great question, Mike. God darn you guys, it's late. That's my fault. I planned to talk 30 minutes. I talked 45. I don't know what got into me, but Mike is a great question. When you're scanning charts, do you click on every single symbol, review it, or are there automated programs? Yes and yes. Let me give you exactly what I do, Mike. Yes, I have scanning programs set up. I even work with a scanning company that maybe someday will be available to you, where I have scans put in there and it delivers prepackaged things. Here's daily charts that have setups you like in terms of breakouts and pullbacks in terms of uptrends. And so I have that ability. In most any program, you can program that in if you want to. I've never been comfortable just doing that. So I go through 1,000 charts by hand, Mike, just click, click, click. And again, I don't want to scare you because, wow, how much time do you spend? That takes me about 20 minutes to go through those charts. So it's not like it's a big deal. And I often do it when I'm watching TV on a laptop. So I'm just clicking through symbols. But I do go through manually because I don't believe you can program in every little nuance that I look for. There's lots of little unique things that just happen that'd be difficult to program in. And a matter of fact, if you start to program everything in, you get in that tough balancing act. As you know, if you set up a scan, you have this tough thing. If your parameters are too wide, you're looking at too much stuff. If they're too tight, you miss too much stuff. And so I go through my 1,000 stocks just clicking one at a time. And that's the reason I use TC2000, because I can click very fast. If you're using your charting platform like TradeStation or Realtik or Thinkorswim or whatever, you probably can't click fast enough because they don't load fast enough, especially after hours. So I go through and do it on there. And then in addition to that, I have a scan set up on stocks that probably would go down to a universe of 2,500 stocks that then look for specific things. And I usually end up with the total results of 20 of those, and I'll look through those real quick in the morning. So I'm trying to do the best of both worlds. Cover some lower volume stocks through a scanner, and then the higher volume stocks I look at personally. That answer your question? David, let me, I had a note here again. If I had 2 or 3 backup notes in case I ran out of time, or in case I ran out of topics. That was pretty funny. I guess I never run out of topics. But let me just leave you with something. Breaking to a new high, boom, QQQ, new high. SPY did it a week before. Is that bullish or bearish? I want to leave you with this thought. Is that bullish or bearish, breaking to a new high? New all-time high. Dun, 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 dun. New all-time high. Bullish or bearish? The last question I'm going to ask you, and if somebody has a pressing question they really want to ask, I'll take one more question. Other than that, we're going to be done. Bullish or bearish? Amazingly, and not unpredictably, because I know the person a little bit, the absolute perfect answer is on the screen there. It depends on how you get there. It's not bullish by definition, Gabriel, not at all. Whose definition is that? That's what I want to know. Whoever told you that ought to be sued, because that is not a thing, Gabriel. Remember, every time you go to a new high, it brings in 2 types of people. It brings in people who want to buy, but who else does it bring in? Who else does it bring in? It brings in people who want to sell and take their profits from the rally, if you got there on a big rally. So it depends how you get there. And this is where you need to understand what I call the language of charts. It's not just looking at cookie cutter patterns and saying, oh gee, there's the head and shoulders and there's a descending wedge and all this crap that doesn't really mean anything. But to look at a chart and say, okay, we're going to a new high. Net, are there going to be buyers or sellers? Look at this new high, David, right here. Look at this new high. Whoops, on the back in October, in May. There's a new high in the market on a wide range bar. Guess what I was? I was short. Did really well. Because I know, and that, look for a pullback is wrong too sometimes. Sometimes the new high means you're going to sell off and you don't even look for the pullback. You just wait until you find an area. So again, this is all part of what you need to learn. There are no generic comments like new highs should be bought. It's not true. It depends how you get there. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it can be. So it's all, part of what you learn and understand. And to kind of carry through my theme of today is that even if you know that you should be bearish, the question still is when and how. What gives you the confidence to say, yeah, that's it, we're heading lower? And when do you push the button? When do you hit the button? again, dime a dozen, somebody could say, yeah, boy, I'm really bearish up here. And then we're down here and they're saying, yeah, I was right. How much money did you make? Well, I didn't actually play it. I just kind of knew we were going to drop. Well, that's a dime a dozen. A lot of people say that. Yeah, right, Gabriel. Talking heads are, you know. Remember, when you listen to the news and you listen to people say things, they're not there to make you money. They're there to make them money. And by make, sometimes when I say make them money, I mean they just want to sensationalize things so that you will tune in, right? So that you will watch. I mean, if it's a news show, they get paid for people who tune in and watch. So you got to sensationalize everything, whether it's a new high in the market. Holy cow, where are we going? Are you on board? To get you to tune in the next day. We see that in Florida all the time. My gosh, every time the wind gets over 20 miles an hour, we have 24/7 weather reports about the hurricane that's coming, and everybody evacuate the entire state of Florida. Don't get me wrong, there's hurricanes that do devastation, but if you live here, you know what I mean. I mean, if I listened to the news, we would have evacuated 47 times in the time I've lived here, and never once have we needed to. So, anyways, now we're talking about hurricanes. Time to call it a day. Thanks, guys. We will see you on Tuesday night for an event. We'll see you Friday for the half-day seminar. And hopefully, some of you listening to me will decide it's time to push the button and take class on Saturday. I gave you the link to read about that. Read about it. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great rest of the weekend, guys. Sorry we ran late. It's my fault. I just, I get talking sometimes. I don't shut up. So we'll see you guys whenever I see you next. Have a great weekend.